Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I am your host. Got something special for you. It's another segment of Colin Campbell Chemicals, Keeper of the Greens. We're going to a wonderful part of Australia in this episode. Come and join with me. This is episode number 63. I'm extremely proud to bring to you Keeper of the Greens once again, which is brought to you by Colin Campbell Chemicals. Colin Campbell Chemicals is a 100% Australian owned and operated company that is a leading supplier of crop protection products for the needs of the turf and broader horticultural industries right across Australia. Not only are Colin Campbell Chemicals Australian owned and operated, in 2020 they celebrated 80 years of being in business since their inception by Colin Campbell Sr. back in 1940 in Alexandria, Sydney. Colin Campbell Chemicals has always had a focus on developing new technologies and bringing solutions to the turf industry. Their product range is a testament to their continued focus into their 82nd year of business as a wholly Australian owned and operated company, with some of those products being produced right here in Australia. If you want to know more about how Colin Campbell Chemicals can help protect your turf, then you need to go to their website at campbellchemicals.com.au or talk to Nadeem directly, whose details are on the website under the Contact Us page. And don't forget to tell them that the Golfing Greenkeeper sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you once again to Keeper of the Greens. It's such an exciting segment of mine that I really love doing. And look, we stand there and stare at a map of Australia as a dartboard, and we're going to throw one which is going to land somewhere around the number 18, I think, or even number 4 up in the top right corner of the dartboard. Yes, we are staying in the state of Queensland, the Sunshine State, heading right up to the north end of town onto a small island offshore. We're going to a special part of the world, and it's to Hamilton Island Golf Club, where I have on the line Superintendent Brad Hole. G'day, Brad. How you doing, mate?
G'day, Steve. I'm very well, thank you.
Mate, thank you so much for being part of this one. You are working at a very special golf course in Australia. Certainly, I think a special golf course in the world, if I do say so myself, and I probably can say that, as I'm not attached to the place like you are, mate. But it's a pretty incredible part of the world to work at. You know, I imagine it's a bit of a dream, is it, every day to wake up on an island?
Mate, it is. I do pinch myself. I mean, the Whit Sundays is, it's gorgeous, absolutely spectacular. And the fact that they put a golf course in the middle of it, well, yeah.
Wow,
it's pretty special.
We're going to learn about that along the way, and it is very special. I absolutely. And one of the things that I'm really excited about having you on, mate, and we've touched on in the past. We know each other a little bit. You've been kind enough to show me around in the times that I've visited up there, and I've been fortunate to be there a few times, mate. And it's something we don't often hear about you guys. Maybe it's because you're a bit more of a resort destination golf course than a well-established historical golf course. I don't know, but we apart from pretty pictures and highlights of a beautiful part of the planet, we don't often hear a lot about Hammo, which probably disappoints me a little bit, I'll be honest. I love the place.
Mate, it is a special place, yeah, and I guess it's a tourist destination, and it's more about the tourism than golf specifically, perhaps. We'd like to change that. We think it's a wonderful golf destination, and we're starting to see more people and groups come up here just for golf and not visit the reef or. So yeah, look, things might change now that we're a bit maturing and we're getting out there a bit more.
No, absolutely, mate. Well, look, let's learn about all that very, very shortly, and I'm going to start off with Steve's Super 7 questions, which you haven't been part of the podcast, mate. I don't even know if you're a listener. Are you a listener of the podcast?
Not yet. I certainly will be.
Good stuff, mate. So look, let's start off with Steve's Super 7 questions. Quick, short fire answers. Are you ready to go?
Right.
Okay. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Number 2, dogs or no... Well, this is probably a weird one for you guys. I don't know. Dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course?
No dogs allowed.
No dogs allowed. Do you have a personal preference on that?
It's a national park.
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
I didn't even know. There you go. I'm already learning. We're already learning as listeners. I love it. I love it. It's great. All right, number 3.
I wish we could sneak a dog on.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's got me thinking already. Wow, there you go. Okay, number 3, stripes or no stripes on fairways?
Stripes.
Stripes. Okay, good stuff. Now, number 4, after a golf shot, do you prefer people to replace their divot or put sand down?
Sand.
Okay, is that because you're cooch predominantly up there on the fairways are cooch? I'm pretty sure, aren't they?
Cooch, yes.
Yep. Is that what it is? Is that the sand works better?
Yeah, and the divots end up sort of back out of the divot again. So we use a nice green sand, and it looks a bit neater.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, number 5, your favourite grass variety. Now, this is a greenkeeping personal question. It doesn't have to be what you use there. It's just your own personal favourite.
I'm an old fan of the Pancross Bent.
Oh, okay. I haven't had that answer before. Very good. Have you got any experience from that one? And maybe we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, Sanctuary Cove many years ago.
Okay, very good. We'll hold that thought. We'll get back to that one. We'll put that in the bank for now. Number 6, favourite bunkers. Kingston Heath. It's a multiple choice. Kingston Heath, Royal Adelaide, or the Bright White of the Australian Golf Club in Sydney.
Ooh, Bright White of the Australian.
Oh, nice. Very nice. And number 7, mate, to finish off, if you could visit one golf course anywhere in the world tomorrow, which one would it be? And you can't say Hamilton Island Golf Club.
Oh, look, watching Cameron come home, I'd say St Andrews.
Oh, wasn't that special? My goodness. Didn't we all love that? If anyone didn't, if you're a golf fan, you didn't get up in the morning to watch that, you certainly missed out.
It was very special.
Absolutely. And, yeah, you're right, mate. Just watching that telecast and watching the golf course, doesn't it make you want to go there in a hurry? It's awesome. Absolutely, mate. Well, thank you very much. That's Steve Super 7. All done. Good, interesting answers, and we like to compare as we listen to different interviews with different superintendents about their thoughts, mate. So thank you very much for doing that. Now, let's get involved in your story, Brad. Let's learn at the early days, the beginnings of your greenkeeping career. Why don't you take us away with sort of how you got into the field of greenkeeping? Is it something you started when you were very young? Has it come through golf? Did you fall in it by accident, tripping over a mower or something? How did you get into greenkeeping, mate? Tell us all.
Look, I guess by accident. I wanted to be a skipper, funny enough, and work on boats. Loved sailing as a young fellow.
Wow, okay. No grass or boats?
No grass, no. And I had a couple of good friends that went missing on a yacht back in the 80s, a yacht called the Patinella. It's still Australia's biggest maritime mystery, what happened to that boat.
Well, actually, are we talking like a disaster that went missing and never to be heard of again? Are we serious?
Yeah, serious. No wreckage, nothing found. A 65-foot stilled hull yacht went missing off Sydney. 4 people on board. And I was actually putting up posters around marinas. Have you seen this boat? And I went to Sanctuary Cove Marina, and I was putting a poster up on their notice board at the marina, and there was a little sign looking for a assistant harbour master. And I applied for that job. I didn't get that job, but they offered me work labouring on the Pines golf course there that they were building.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, definitely fell into a golf job. So I started under Doug Robinson on the Pines course there and fell in love with it. Wow.
So did you grow up on the Gold Coast or Brisbane, or whereabouts are you from growing up?
Born Taree.
Okay, in North Coast of New South Wales, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And when I was 12, moved to the Gold Coast.
Okay.
And, went through school there and, yeah.
So, no, mate, I was just going to say, so how old were you when you got into, you were looking for work? Is that leaving school age? What are we talking?
No, I'd sort of backpacked and travelled around for just a couple of years after leaving school, working on some boats and trying to get sea time up to do skipper's tickets.
Right.
And, and then what happened to my friends was sort of threw me a little bit, and when that's when I thought I'll work at a marina rather than sort of sailing.
Than out on the ocean.
Yeah,
I've never heard anything. I don't know anyone who's ever said a story that must have been devastating.
Yeah, it was, and just the fact, seeing what it did to their family. They never knew the outcome or what had happened.
Wow, that's just wow.
Yeah, quite incredible. The Patinella.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, because of that, I actually worked with those fellows on a boat up here on the Whitsundays. Um, yeah, not long before it happened, and
Wow.
so I sort of fell in love with the Whitsundays and Airlie Beach then.
Just
So
not
that was kind of another draw card to get me back up here.
nice long association up there, mate.
Yeah,
Well,
very much so. It's just,
very good. So you're doing some work at the Pines. What a great... Was this when it was being built? I don't know a lot of the history
yeah,
of Sanctuary Cove.
yeah. Sanctuary Cove, they had the Palms course that was up and running,
Okay.
and the Pines was Arnold Palmer design course.
Yes.
And beautiful Pancross bent greens we put in.
Okay, so that's where the love
We,
affair starts from.
yeah, yep. So yeah, and yeah, loved it. Sanctuary Cove was a great place to work and had a good team there.
Yep.
So I was there, yeah, did my apprenticeship and stayed on, I guess about 6 years. And at that time, yeah, golf was taking off in Asia. A lot of the greenkeepers were moving overseas,
Yes.
and so I sort of finished up early '95 and ended up in Phuket, Thailand.
Wow, what a leap.
Loved that. I was like 26 then, and got my first supers gig in Thailand.
Wow. So you did your time, you completed time. Were you did you become assistant at Sanctuary Cove before you went and took the role on it as a superintendent over in Thailand?
No, not really. Just a greenkeeper.
Wow. That's
There
a hell of a launch.
It was a big leap. There was an American guy looking for a young superintendent and a general manager for the club over there, and I guess they were looking for people that would fit in with the lifestyle. It wasn't sort of an easy gig back then in Thailand.
Sure.
It certainly Phuket matured into a wonderful destination, and we had a ball over there.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I fitted the bill more than the experience side of it.
Okay.
I've done a little bit of travelling, like adventures, so to speak.
There you go.
So,
Right. That's really. I'm curious a little bit. I might just step back a touch there because you mentioned Pencross Bentgrass at Sanctuary Cove at the Pines, and I'm hearing, like, as it stands now that I'm aware of, in nearly all the golf courses and the Gold Coast and North are couch greens, except for the Glades, which I have a love affair with the Glades. I just not long ago did the last episode of Keeper of the Greens was with Glenn Gibson Smith at the Glades, and I'm a big fan of the bent grass greens because it reminds me of Sydney golf and Melbourne golf.
Yep.
And I've heard that Arundel Hills in its early days was bent grass from another Keeper of the Greens that I did. I think it was Mick Pascoe. And now you're mentioning that the Pines was bent grass greens at the Gold. These are all Gold Coast.
Yes.
They've all slowly transitioned to couch.
Yeah, they have.
And obviously it's difficult dealing with bent grass in high humidity and those temperatures that you get around that region, Queensland and North. Is that
very much
really what that basis is all about? Just a sort of an easier existence, do you think? Is that what that comes from?
I think so. Definitely an easier existence. I mean, we when the greens there were good, they were fabulous. But we did battle with the weather and the heat. A lot of syringing, a lot of disease pressure. We had fans on, I think, 3 of the greens there. We had weather stations out on the course, had misting sprinklers, all sorts of things. But it was a battle. And I was devastated when I heard they were swapping them over. It wasn't long after I'd left.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And, I thought they were taking the easy option out. But after I went back when they were couch greens and they were spectacular. And I did realise it was the right decision, probably.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I know Paul McLean, who's superintendent there now, has just recently redone all the greens on the Pines course with Tiff. I think it's Tiff Eagle. I don't want to get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Tiff Eagle. And they look sensational. I was up there when they were growing them in, and they just look good then.
Yeah. So, that's it hurt at the time, but I think it was the right decision.
There you go. Okay, mate. So let's go to back to Phuket in time. So you're over there, young superintendent. What was it like holding the reins of a golf course as a superintendent, young man, first time, different country, different culture? You obviously travelled a bit, so it's not too uncomfortable. But still, what was the workforce? Were they Thai people majority? I imagine they were. How did that work?
Yeah, they were all Thai. About I think 57 when I arrived. And I worked for an American chap who bounced between America and Thailand, and his experience and sort of grounding, helped me a lot. Yeah, but look, it certainly was different. It
Yeah.
was, yeah,
I
it
bet,
was
I bet it
exciting.
was.
It was a big learning curve,
So
but
was
I
it a
think just
build?
having some good. No, it was just a maintenance.
Okay, so the golf course was already there. You were stepping
Yep,
into the role.
in stepping into the role. Actually, there was another Australian guy before me, Danny Potter, and he'd moved within the company to another course that they were building in Indonesia.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I was just taking over the maintenance role. Yeah,
And
yeah.
did you enjoy that?
Loved it immensely. Originally, we went thinking I'd only been married 6 months, actually 6 weeks before we went over. So yeah, it was lots of changes in life at that stage. But and yeah, look, it was an adventure. We were hoping to save a little bit of money. Yeah, no, it was terrific. We originally gave it 2 years. I ended up spending 10 years there.
10 years.
So yeah, we definitely it got easier, and by 6 to 12 months into it, yeah, you'd have to drag me out kicking and screaming. It was fabulous.
What a great turn. You've gone there with a short term in mind and ended up sticking at 10, and it was on the same golf course, I take it?
Same golf course, and later down the track, I took on the course in Indonesia as well. So I was bouncing between the two.
Oh, so you were overseeing two golf courses.
Yep.
Wow.
And that was more of a consulting role. We had a Malaysian superintendent in Indonesia, and he was doing a good job there. So I'd go over for 4 days a month, and just help him with budgets and pushing for new equipment and projects.
That's
so
incredible.
That was, yeah.
Was it? I'm curious. I'm not an overseas travelled person. I've been. I don't like to say that New Zealand's not overseas. It's just next door. But that's my extent of overseas travel. But I'm curious, between Thailand and Indonesia, are they two quite different golf courses? Is the climate just hot and humid? I don't know what it's like. What is that like? Can you tell us?
Similar, yeah, hot and humid. The climates between the two were very similar. I say Indonesia, it's an island off Singapore, so it wasn't too far away.
Okay.
And that was on Bintan. So yeah, similar growing conditions, different grasses, but same principles.
Yep.
And very similar weather. Two different cultures, quite different to work with, the Thais and the Indonesians. Both, lovely people. Yeah, I had a ball.
Wow, what a great time of your career.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I don't know a lot of your backstory, so I'm learning this as much as everyone listening. I love to say that I do that because it really gets me excited listening to the story. So I only know you from Hammo, but hearing this 10-year, overseas work in Asia is quite interesting, and we know that there's so many. Like you talked about Asia booming when you went in the mid-90s over that way, working from Sanctuary Cove, and other guys were moving around. We know that still Asia is quite a booming golf destination, certainly Vietnam at the moment and places like that. We know of architects are going there, and it's just, it really is continuing. Absolutely. And there's so much going on. I didn't realise it started from those days back then.
Yes, yeah.
Quite remarkable.
Yeah. Definitely, I think, Indonesia, Thailand, they were quite early on in the piece compared to some other places, Malaysia.
Yeah.
But beautiful golf courses. You've got big crews, so you can manicure everything. It's very different maintaining a course with 57 staff, or some courses have 200 staff.
Really? That's an army. That's a small village.
It is an army. Yeah.
We got villages in Australia that aren't anywhere near that big.
A couple of places over there, they'll build the course, and a part of the deal is you have to employ so many of the local villages. So you'll have them. You'll sweep fairways and things like that by hand.
Wow!
Getting clippings, and so it's a very different beast.
Wow!
And your management skills are very different.
I bet they are.
Yeah, but it's rewarding as well. It doesn't suit everyone. You got to be quite patient, I think. And as I said, I had some good advice when I first got there, just about being patient. Don't try and change Thailand to work like Australians.
Sure.
And once you learn some of their culture and respect, you go with them and you go with the flow.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, rather than try and battle it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I suppose you've got to learn there. Well, you're doing it over there, so, and it's a flavour. It's a Thai golf flavour. It's an Indonesian golf flavour. It's part of the attraction, I imagine, as well. Is that you're not going over there to experience Australian golf. You're going over there to as a person, as a visitor. It's in their country. You're trying to manage a team, but as a visitor playing golf, you're visiting there to experience golf there.
Yeah,
to see what that's like. Go on.
Mm-hmm. No, I was going to say, with the caddies over there and that high level of service, it is quite different. You can't really afford to do that in Australia with that level of detail and staff. So, that's a good place to experience.
Can I ask a question in that? Mm-hmm. Is golf something that is picked up by the local people when golf gets introduced there, and I don't know if any of those regions have other golf courses by the time those ones or are they the only golf courses there? Do they pick it up? Is it just a form of work, or do they get into it and want to learn more about it? And
they do. It's funny enough over there, golf's expensive.
Yep.
So for the Thai people, you have to be very well off to be playing golf. But with the staff loved it. They'd pick up a club and have a swing and would have a few fun events like that. But to get into golf and play seriously over there, it's more for the wealthy, that's for sure.
Right, so it's not an accessible sport. Like even we try to make sure here in Australia there's lots of, as much as possible, public access golf for people to go down there and pay $20 or whatever it might be and get around a golf. Over in a lot of the places that you've experienced there with your work, it wasn't about that. It was destination holiday for Westerners, I imagine, or even Asian people from the region.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Look, I don't know if it's changed. It'd be nice to think since I came back that it has changed and it's a bit more accessible for everyone. But the places that I were involved with were definitely sort of resort courses. And,
okay. Interesting. Very interesting, mate. So where did life take you after you were overseeing the two courses?
Then I took on some landscaping duties at the hotels, and then, to be honest, it was probably getting a bit much. I was spread a bit thin and probably doing sort of 4 roles poorly rather than one well.
Yep.
But I had 2 kids over there. My wife enjoyed living there, and it was hard work, and the travel was a little bit tiring sometimes, but just a lovely place to live, nice food, great people. And it was after the tsunami that hit, the Boxing Day tsunami, that we realised that we want to get back to Australia and be closer to family, especially while the kids were young.
Yep.
So that was the turning point. My wife ended up managing a little resort there in Phuket at Kamala, and wow. And that was a tough period. So that changed. That changed a lot of things for us.
Yeah, right.
And then we made the commitment to give it 6 months after the tsunami to help sort of get things back to where they should be. And and then we moved on, came back to Australia.
Wow. Okay, there you go. So the kids are growing up. We're wanting to get a bit closer to family and friends back home in
Correct.
Oz. Where did you hit the mark when you came back? Where did you go to?
Came back to Australia, Palm Beach on the Gold Coast.
Okay, nice.
That had been home, and we had a house that we'd bought while we were overseas at Palm Beach, so we sort of did some renovations on that. I had an old combi that I'd had for many years, so
nice.
We piled the kids into that and took off and decided to show them a bit of the East Coast. Because they really hadn't sort of spent a lot of time in Australia other than the odd holiday.
Yeah, right.
So I had a bit of a family time. Came back to the Gold Coast after that, and actually then I saw a greenkeeping position back at Sanctuary Cove again under Dean Henderson.
Okay.
And so I went back and worked for about 12 months at Sanctuary Cove just as a greenkeeper.
Yep.
And I wanted to sort of get the feel of what was happening back in Australia, how things were being done. And that was a good stepping stone for me coming back.
Yeah, sure.
Got me back on the tools and back on the mowers again, which I absolutely love. Not as much stress or responsibility.
Absolutely. And after a bit of a break, can I ask how long your break was? You spent that family time travelling around and before you got back to greenkeeping?
That was just under 12 months.
Yeah, right. So it was a reasonable break from
Yep.
greenkeeping life.
Yes. And then, Sanctuary Cove, 12 months, and then briefly signed on with Titanium that owned and ran Pelican Waters.
Oh, wow.
Benny Marshall was the superintendent there, and they were looking at buying Laguna Keys back up here.
Before it did go missing.
Yeah, exactly. And with some Chinese investment, the plan was to redevelop Laguna Keys. And they had plans for a couple of golf courses and, a wonderful master plan.
Yeah, right.
But just bad timing. So I jumped on board as a project manager with them.
Okay.
And global financial crisis hit. Investors pulled out, and I was given about 10 days' notice that I was no longer needed.
And everything comes to a grinding halt in terms of
the
big investment world. I mean, even I know where I was working at the time, things became excruciatingly difficult with a development attached. All money just all disappeared across the landscape, really, didn't it?
Yep. It was a little bit scary, and I had bought a unit some time before at Laguna Keys. That had sort of been my dream retirement spot if it was still going. So we thought, well, I'm unemployed. The kids were already booked into schools up here to start a couple of weeks down the track.
Wow.
So we moved up, and I'm not sure how long I was at Laguna Keys for. There was, I don't think there was a superintendent there. That was the start of the slow demise of Laguna Keys.
Yeah.
So I jumped in there and worked for about 12 months. I might have been a little bit longer there, just while the kids were settling in school, and we were enjoying the area very much.
Can I jump in quickly, mate, if you don't mind? Because I don't know. To me, Laguna Keys is a bit of an urban myth. I don't know a lot about it. It's so my sort of understanding of it from that point that you mentioned is really from its demise. I mean, what was it like working there when things were not great, I suppose, on the back of the GFC, and then, it had such a great name and it was basically destined to ultimately disappear. I mean, how was that a feeling? Was there many people looking after the golf course in those sort of final final period? How did that feel?
It was heartbreaking, to be honest, because it's such a special spot, and if anyone's played it or seen it in its heyday, you'd understand it was built probably around the same time as Sanctuary Cove and Iwasaki Resort and a few of these big places, and the Japanese were flying over. And loving their golf in Australia, and the same thing. It was special. It's an incredible block of land. You bust through rainforest, and then you're out on the waterfront. The fairways, I think, were 3-8, Tiff Dwarf greens. And the quality of the place in its heyday was gobsmacking.
That's I think I'm not sure, but I thought Village Roadshow bought it and sat on it for a long time.
Yeah, look, they did, and then there was an Australian fellow from Melbourne, a businessman, bought it that probably shouldn't have, and I think he was looking for other investors. I don't think he sort of bought it planning on running it himself.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know the full story, but
sad end.
That was the very sad end.
And it's still there now, isn't it? Just nothing.
Still there now. The course is overgrown. I think the marina's sort of silted up.
No, that's devastating.
All the units and that are still there because they're all privately owned and run by the body corporates, and they're still nice. And there's quite a few people living there.
Yeah.
But there's no racket club, there's no restaurants. As I said, the marina's sort of empty. I believe the boat ramp's still there.
What a shame.
It is a shame because it was a very special spot.
So
Probably just ahead of its time,
yeah,
perhaps.
well, I mean, timing's everything, isn't it? With certainly with golf developments, and the Queensland coast has got plenty of ones that have come and gone and up and down, and
That's right.
different versions have come and disappeared, and
Yep.
it's such a remarkable place and very popular. Like you mentioned, with Asian developers, Japanese, Chinese, they absolutely love the Queensland coast, and
Yes.
that's why there's been so many developments there that have, some have survived and some haven't. But mate, how did it play out for you with your time there?
Look, really good. I loved it. Once again, I wasn't under an awful lot of. Well, I knew my hands were tied as far as taking the course anywhere, unless the place was sort of sold or something serious changed. So it was just a matter of providing the best golf course we could with the staff and machinery we had.
Yep.
Staffing wasn't too much of an issue. There were locals working there, and some great people. And just sort of do the best we could.
Okay.
And that we all sort of had that frame of mind. We accepted what was happening to the place, and the changes were out of our hands.
Yeah.
And after I left there and came to Hamilton Island, I'm not sure how much longer it was open for. Another guy went and filled the superintendent's role, and he might have been the last fellow there, I think.
Yeah. Right. There you go. So you take a leap from a sinking ship, as it were, and we can say that because it's no longer with us. Laguna Keys is gone and has been gone for a while. So you take a leap from Laguna Keys to quite possibly. Can I ask? You get to Hammo. Was Hammo being built? Was it finished? At what point did you join Hamilton Island Golf Club?
I started about 6 weeks before opening.
Right. So a brand new, very shiny and very talked about golf course.
Yes.
So you go from one extreme development that's turning south to another one that's got quite a lot ahead of it in an extremely unique part of the world, more so than Laguna Keys, I think is safe to say.
Yep.
What was that jump like? Was this was it confident? I mean, all developments are a bit funny for me because you never really know whether they're going to work or not. They always start out with a lot of fanfare and everyone talks it up, but this was something special because Hammo is a very, very special part of Queensland.
Look, it is, and the Oatley family that own Hamilton Island, they're passionate about everything they do. They do things well. I was excited to jump on board. At a good time, it was something to get the teeth into. It was still a construction when I got here, so setting up the procedures and just turning it into an operation from a construction.
Yeah, that would have been quite a challenge and quite interesting and fun at the same time. I imagine it's all you're really creating the operation of a golf course from a maintenance perspective that's never been done before, and it's on a unique site. You mentioned, we just learned it's National Park, so that's something new. It's in the middle of the Great Barrier Reef, so that's something special. It's, mate, how that would have been a very, very impressive part of your career, I imagine.
Yeah, it was a good one. It's a different beast, and I just wanted to dive in. It was terrific, and Doug Robinson was involved with the construction here, and having him as a shoulder to cry on if and when needed was good to know as well. And I guess one of the challenges that was also exciting is Hamilton Island's not a golf company or a golf business. It's built as a major sort of activity for the resort, but it is an activity. It's they've got go-karts, they've got bowls, the restaurants, all the the kids stuff over there, the
quad bike riding, and you can go on helicopter flights, and there's name it, you think of it, they've pretty much got one of it.
That's it. So so it's different not working for a golf specific company. And I guess with my background at resort courses, that probably helped to understand that. And although we're trying to get the surfaces right, or we want to do everything for golfers, it is a resort course. Most of our golfers are playing the course for the first time, It's a bit of it's about the wow factor and the views, obviously, and the good service at the clubhouse. But it's a different beast. It's not your everyday your club members that have played the course 1,000 times or are there for a monthly medal. You've keyed it up for holiday makers and that style of environment.
And I imagine quite a few of your golfers aren't golfers. Is that probably fair to say as well, because of where it is and what it is? And you talked about the wow factors, and it's understanding your clientele when setting up your, like you said earlier on, your procedures and how you're going to maintain the golf course is really important with a place like Hamilton Island, I imagine, as a golf course, because you really need to. You're coming from a different angle.
Definitely, you're catering for a different clientele and a wide variety, as you said. Some non-golfers, certainly some people that their first game of golf's over here.
What a golf course!
that could create some issues too. Some early days I'd drive up to turn up and there's a golf cart parked in the middle of the green while someone's having a putt next to it. You name it, you've seen it.
Oh, you can't imagine that coming from other parts of golf in other courses across the country or the world, and you see random things like that, because it's not
some strangeness.
It's not like you said. A lot of the people that go there, and I've been there. Like I said, I've nearly been there. I think half a dozen times now. Very fortunate to do so, and one of the best days I had was a couple of days because we got married at Hamilton Island, my wife and I, and that was very special. And 2 days before it, me and the boys, the crew, all the groomsmen and family, we went over there, and us guys all played a round of golf there, and some of them weren't golfers. I know my best man wasn't a golfer at all, and they were just gobsmacked with what it is and where it is. It really takes people. It really grabs people on a quite an interesting level when they're not golfers, to see the golf course in its location, and they're captivated by it. They're not golfers. It's really unique.
Yeah, it is. It's and as you know, you turn up in a boat, then you put in a little minivan and take it up the hill to the clubhouse, and the whole experience very different, and because the course isn't visible from anywhere, you don't know what you're arriving to.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because you don't see it from sea level. You get the boat over on Hamilton Island Golf Club, because we should mention to people, if they're not sure, Hamilton Island Golf Club and the golf course is on Dent Island, so it's next door to, across the passage. I can't remember what it's called, from Hamilton Island Golf Club. It isn't. So you get on the boat at the marina. All you can see is a bushy island with a very high spine ridge running across the middle of it, or the length of it, I should say. And you're like, we're going over there. So where are we going exactly? It's just all bush.
That's a part of the appeal in the adventure, and that was a big part of the design brief. And Thomas Perrott did an incredible job. They weren't allowed to have the course visible from around the island, so they're not changing the look of the Whitsundays.
Wow!
So they weren't allowed to. To make it visible or to change the look of the islands around the place. The only spot that you're allowed to see or really know that there's a golf course from is some of the hills on Hamilton Island. If you look across, you see a couple of little splashes of green fairway.
Wow.
But if you're on a boat travelling around the island, you wouldn't know it's there.
So that's so we should mention it is Thompson Perrott Design. The company that did it. So it's got pedigree behind the design. I assume it's wanting to put a bit of a name to a destination golf course as well, from the Oatley family, no doubt. That's part of what they do sometimes with these sorts of developments. But that's a really interesting key, because I don't know any of the background to the build, to the golf course in this type that. You mentioned it's national park, and I assume this comes back to the fact that it's national park. It's a very important part of Australia. These islands are.
Yes. So the construction team, Benny Marshall and Doug were involved. They did an incredible job with what they were given to work with. The strict rules of the construction. the limited footprint that they could work with was quite incredible on a tough site.
Oh, it is. There's so much
Solid
rock.
It's rock and exposed. Everything has to be barged on the island, so they had limited access for machinery. It's an incredible feat just to actually put it here.
It absolutely so, and a lot of that detail. I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, we could talk for hours about a lot of this stuff, but I want to try and get some of the key points of this sort of thing. Can you tell us a little bit about? Obviously, it was interesting hearing about that design brief. Is there any more of that sort of info about what restrictions are there of maintaining a golf course on an island? On its own island, you're on 3 golf courses that I know of in Australia that's on its very, very own island. It's quite unique, but it's the national park and the sensitivity of being in the Great Barrier Reef. I imagine there is some amazing restrictions on how you can function, how you can operate. You mentioned a little bit there, you touched on logistics of getting things to your very own island. And of course, Hammo is an island in itself, which has to get things from the mainland. So we're sort of, bumping from place to place to get to you.
Yeah, logistically, it's a nightmare. Look, but it works. There's a team at Shute Harbour, a logistics team, and they organise the barges. And there's a barge which does 2 runs to Hammo. I mean, as you say, everything, all the food, everything has to come across on a barge to Hamilton Island, and everything has to leave on the barge. All the waste, rubbish. So logistically, getting what you need when you need it takes a bit of time. And then we have to factor in that we have to get things from Hamilton Island to Dant as well. We do have a barge ramp on the island here. But there's a reef in front of it, so
of course there is. There has to be. Wouldn't make sense if there wasn't.
And they weren't allowed to disrupt that reef during construction, because it would have been great to blast it and have the barge could come in any time. But the big barge that brings tippers of sand and fuels, we can only get that in on the very tops of high tides.
Wow.
And it can only stay on the barge ramp for a certain amount of time while trucks unload and do what they have to do. And during winter, this time of year, I can't get a barge onto the island during day hours.
What?
There's the top of the high tide isn't enough for the barge to come in and to stay there while we pump fuel and empty tippers. So
is it obvious that it has to be done at night? Is that what you do, or do you just have to wait a long period? You load up before this time of the
year? We factor out, because the tides are set, they don't change. So they can factor in the last available tide for us, and we load up on sand, get as much fuel and everything on the island as we can and we can hold. And then, I mean, everything we do, we've got contingencies. So we've got a 400-litre pod we can put on a ute. We have a small barge which comes across twice a week, and that still, it has to be at high tide, but we've got a lot more opportunities with that one. So this little barge called Mini-Me, that brings the food over to the restaurants. It'll take our wheelie bins, the rubbish away. We can fit a ute on that, so we can have a pallet of fertiliser on the ute. So that's our lifeline that we use twice a week.
That's incredible. I think about the times when I was running. If we got low on fuel, or if someone stuffed up and we were short on an order of fertiliser, you just go, I'll just run up the road and we'll grab it, or I'll quickly order, I'll call so-and-so down in Sydney and they'll get it sent up to me tomorrow. I mean, you've got to be planned and booked in so far ahead. Like you said, you've got contingencies. Yes. I imagine you've got contingency storage. You can't just go, we need a load of sand because we're going to go on top dress tees tomorrow. All this sort of stuff is really set out months ahead because of these logistical challenges.
That's right. Yeah.
And unreal.
When we want things, quite often Hamilton Island will have a function on or something, and the barges are tied up, or so everything has to be planned out, and that's a huge part of my role is just the logistical side of it.
Wow.
Making sure I've got enough products on hand. We keep a lot of spare parts for machinery.
That's incredible.
It's a different beast.
Would some of your experience, would you have, I mean, working on resorts and things like that, because it is different clientele, different customers, different way that the golf courses are run and managed. Did you pick up some of this working at the Sanctuary Coves of the world and working over in Thailand and different types of resort style setups? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it helped. Being prepared for the unexpected or just having backup plans and being a little bit patient, I think over the years I've learnt. Things aren't always going to go to plan. I definitely, I think my background helped. If I'd come from sort of straight members courses, which would be wonderful as well. But I think it would have been a little bit different. But having the resort background where things work a little bit differently, it did help.
Sure. We'll talk a little bit more about some of those challenges a little bit later on, because I want to ask you some other questions, when we get into a few of the really heavy things that have damaged around that part of the region. But I want to talk a little bit about, and we touched on there before, in the design and the early days of construction, you were getting involved and growing the golf course in, because I want to understand a little bit, if you don't mind, Brad, about what was it like to mature and grow in Hamilton Island as a golf course? Because I'm just ideas are running through my head. The abundance of having challenges of just getting gear and all that sort of stuff, we touched on there is so much rock, so I don't know the profiles and how the golf course surfaces and the soil profiles are built there and what depths you could do, because there was a lot of dynamite blasting to build 18th fairway, I think, is from memory. You're telling me to blow the big knob of the rock off to build the fairway down back to the clubhouse.
$1 million was spent just on that hole on explosives.
How much?
$1 million.
Just to give you a framework to build a fairway. That's incredible.
To get the level down low enough.
That's astonishing. So what was it like maturing the golf course with the site that it is? Because high humidity, we talked about how difficult that can be with grass.
Yeah.
I imagine you get a little bit of rain during the wet season.
Yep, just a little bit.
Tell us a bit about how those first couple of years went.
First couple of years are quite good. When I started, we had a date for the opening. The greens weren't growing in yet, so we oversowed those with Poa Triv.
Okay.
And they look terrific. The fairways and most of the grassing was quite mature, and you get good growing weather up here. So look, it wasn't too bad. Once we got rid of the Poa and we were looking at what was left and underneath, and we had a lot of ERI in the greens.
Okay.
And we still get touches at that certain years. In the fairways, look, the rock and everything is an issue. A lot of it was solid turf, slopes and areas, so there was a lot of solid turf.
Right, okay.
But in the fairways and everything, tees were in good condition when before opening, so we were quite fortunate there.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But as you said, getting your head around the soils and things was a tough one. There was no soil imported for the fairways. It was all sort of, scraped off areas, sieved and reused.
Okay.
And we do have bits of rock, coming through fairways, and there's not a lot of profile in there, and it's heavily sort of eroded soil, as you can imagine, which has been up here and exposed for millions of years.
Yeah.
Because the Greenleaf Park is what we have on the fairways. It copes quite well. But we can't renovate the fairways. We use a terra rake to scratch them up.
Yep.
I did have a slicing machine here, a toe behind slicing machine, and that lasted about 50 metres up the first fairway.
Say, did you destroy it altogether?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's.
So there's some really bizarre challenges for a golf course. So these are all, I imagine, a payoff to the restrictions of being able to build in there in the first place. These are the things that you've got to deal with in time, because you can't, like you said, the soil. It's basically a rock with bush on it. Let's be honest, Dent Island. I mean, there's nothing to it. There's no soils really there to speak. I don't know if you didn't bring any on there, or the team didn't. That's a pretty mean effort to get something that you can grow grass on for fairways, because we wouldn't know. As I've played it, like I said, a few times, and I wouldn't have realised it was that shallow. I had shallow soils at Katoomba where we had sandstone at about 200 mil, anywhere from 100 to 200 mil down, and I'm wondering why they're drying out so much. But you've got less.
There's certainly less in patches. Look, once again, they did an incredible job during construction. They really did. And it just wasn't logistically possible to sand cap or to bring material in.
Wow.
Tees and greens, of course, but that's it.
That's incredible. So what does that equal to maintain your fair? So you can't renovate the way that we would think. You're putting things down to open up deep down, 100, 200 mil down. You can't do that. You've just said you destroy machines.
You destroy machines. The terror rake's been wonderful, just to sort of flick up a bit of thatch out of them.
Yep.
The fairways are quite thatchy.
Do you do that as a payoff again? Is that part of the payoff to try and maintain with what you've got there as a soil profile of next to nothing?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we just deal with what we've got and do the best we can. I've just bought an aeravator.
Oh, I love that machine.
I'm a bit excited about.
I love that machine. If you can break that, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, so that was exciting to get. It just sort of turned up in the middle of the wet season, so I've sort of been waiting. We're just about to get it out now. Everything's dried out, and so I'm going to be impressed with that. So that'll certainly help. And then we'll get some calcium and some gypsum into them and see what we can do because we haven't been able really to do that before. We put some gypsum out, but the quantities that this soil needs is. Unmanageable. It's just it's a crazy high amount.
That's
I'm excited about the aeravator, and I know on certain areas and some of the parts where the haul roads were and some areas that are a little bit more compacted than others.
Yep.
This will be a good machine. It looks really tough. I've had a few plays with it, and
you'll love it. I can tell you now. I can tell you now, you're going to love it. I used to flog the daylights out of it at both Wentworth Falls where I worked in Katoomba, and running over, like you said, those tracks that are formed. And for you guys, it was during construction, the haul roads. For us, it's just maintenance tracks that we cross fairways. You'd go on low gear, and you just absolutely shake the bejesus out of it, and it was awesome. I think it goes through concrete if you sit it there. I think it does break up concrete. It's amazing.
That's what we need. It's going to ride up and roll over some of the solid rock areas. And,
you'll see it jumping. You'll see it jumping around. That's mate. That's a very good tool that you've got there at your disposal, which is going to be a big help to improving the course. So we'll jump to your grass types. You mentioned Greenlease Park on your fairways. Is that
Greenlease Park? Yep.
Is that something that you've got on your tees and surrounds as well, or is that a different grass?
No, tees and surrounds, all Greenlease Park.
Okay.
Tiff Eagle on the greens.
Tiff Eagle, and that's been from the moment it was built. Has been Tiff Eagle.
Yes, correct.
And how do you find that as a performer? Because I think, like we said before, that the Pines, for example, they've recently gone to Tiff Eagle. How do you find Tiff Eagle as a putting green performer?
Look, at first, I don't think I wasn't overly impressed, but it's certainly growing on me.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sorry. Look, it has. It's growing on me, and I enjoy it now. I like it. It's a good grass, a nice surface.
Nice. Very good. I mean, it putts well when I played that. And you've got, if I'm not mistaken, if you had the Queensland PGA there, what are the tournaments that because you have had tournaments there?
Yeah, for 7 or 8 years we had the PGA, the championships.
Okay.
So that was the Australian finals for all the club pros.
Right.
And look, that was a lot of fun. That's the time that we can trick the course up for good golfers.
That's pretty cool.
It was good and great for the team as well. So we get the greens rolling a little bit quicker and a little bit firmer and. It was great. It was a terrific event. The pros had a good time. We ran at the same week an amateur event as well. It was a good time of year. And look, we had a ball with that. That was terrific.
Different clientele to prepare the golf course for.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it something that was a bit of a goal for the place at all to be able to host a true golf tournament?
Look, it was. It was you can't hold an event here with spectators.
They have to swim.
but you can't get them around the course. As soon as you're off the edge of the fairway, it's national park.
Oh, again, we get back to logistics. This is really interesting.
So there's no sort of rough or in between fairways areas for people to walk and look. So it's not a course that you could have a tournament with spectators on.
Wow, okay.
You couldn't get them around the course. It's and walking in that long native grass. You'd be rolling your ankle on rocks.
Yeah, because it
looks lovely, and you could run through it off something out of The Sound of Music, but it's certainly not the case.
And we won't talk about because it's card only golf as well. We should mention that to people because
it is card only. Yeah,
you've got a small, considerably enormous drive from the 17th green to the 18th tee. That's
over a kilometre in itself, and there's some big hills in that one.
That's nearly. You could nearly have some sort of marathon or something. You could run the golf course, couldn't you?
Done that. Yeah, you can.
Oh, you have. There you go. I'm all over it.
Certainly not me, but we used to have a group on Sunday mornings come across and run around the cart path.
See, now that's a good idea.
Was called the Dent Dash.
The Dent Dash. It's not short. Yeah. That's not a dash.
The full course is 11 kilometres on the cart path.
Wow. And there's some hills. Like you mentioned, I mean, this is not... The island is far from anywhere remotely close to what you call flat. I mean, what's the height? What's the elevation of the highest point? Do you know? Maybe I'll put you on the spot there, mate.
Yeah, look, you have. I'm just trying to think of my dam levels. And it probably goes from about 25 metres above sea level to probably 125.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's a long way up. Especially, I love the part up at the fourth tee. Up at top of the par 3, it's absolutely magnificent.
Yeah,
there's so many good parts. But, mate, I'll take you off the spot there. We know it's high because the only other way you get, like you said, when you come in from that boat and everything just starts to get higher and higher, the closer you get to the wharf.
That's it.
It's and then you drive up that very, very steep driveway. You get taken up the very steep driveway, the beautiful magical service that you've got there as part of the golf club. It's quite everything about it is quite remarkable. So we learned a little bit about your turf surfaces there and how they and what people can compare that as well to other golf courses they might have played, which is the idea of understanding turf. But it's all cooch is the short version.
All cooch. Yes.
And that's akin to where you are in the warm part of the world, warm part of Australia. I always like to ask this one because, well, there's probably 1,001 fantastic locations on the golf course, but you know the site intimately. Do you have anywhere, for someone who knows the place so well over so long, is there anywhere that you still get to on the golf course or you love to go and just have a little bit of an outlook over something? I mean, everywhere is magic. Do you have one spot that's magic for you?
Well, for me, it's the fourth. I love standing on the tee on the fourth.
It's beautiful.
That's a special spot. You can sort of look down and see most of the front nine. You've got the water off behind the green.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful little beach down on the right-hand side. Once you go around the cart path a bit more, you can look down on this great little beach. The fourth, I mean, everyone talks about the 14th and the 15th as the sort of signature holes, but the 14th is my favourite. There is a lookout on the 14th tee, which is a good spot.
Yep.
The fourth is special for me.
Nice, and it is. There's so many great spots. Like I can rattle them off in the only half a dozen times I've been there, and I love it. But to hear you say it, and you're there every day. I think that tells everyone listening just what that fourth tee, and when you get there, and it's early in your round too, which is what I like.
Yep.
Because it's unusual that you get something so special early on in a golf. They try and build it. I mean, you build to the back, like you said, 14, 15.
That's it.
Even 16, 18. Oh, anyway,
that's
we just
right. Yeah.
There's no.
We could not a bad view out there. You got water views, I think, on every hole. You see the water or the islands from some point of every hole.
It really is a special. But for anyone listening, if you haven't been, and we have bucket list. It's funny because there's bucket list golf courses all over Australia, and there's plenty of them, but. There's, people talk about, your Cape Wickhams and your Barn Bugles and the Tassie stuff at the moment and New South Wales and Sydney and that sort of thing. But for whatever reason, and I know Hamilton Island is a bucket list golf course, but it's probably not as high up for some reason as I think it should be it's probably more or more attributed to visiting golfers, like we said earlier on, because so many other different types of reasons to be there. And you get people coming over, because the first time I saw it was as part of just a lunch tour. So I didn't even go there to play golf. We went there for lunch, and then we got driven around the golf course.
Yeah, that's a wonderful lunch. You would have enjoyed that. The chefs do a terrific job there. So that's a package, and they put you in the buggies when the weather's fine, and off you go around the back nine normally, or we do the tour up around the front nine as well now, some days as well, weather depending.
So there's another question I've got, because I'm thinking, and this comes back to it not being a golf business that you mentioned way back in the conversation. I can think that there's people out there that I know that are greenkeepers or superintendents that off the top of their head would just go, you're going to drive people out in the middle of the day onto the golf course and just going to show them around?
Yeah.
Are they going to get in the way of the golfers, or they're going to get in the way of us, or they're going to be in the way, full stop. And you want to, why would you do that? I mean, when you go to Hammo, it's obvious why. What's that like?
Yeah, look, it does take a little bit to get used to things like that. But you hear how popular it is, and the joy it brings to non-golfers who won't see it, or the people, like yourself, that might have done the tour and gone, oh my God, I've got to book in. I want to play this. It's a wonderful form of advertising for us as well.
Oh yeah.
But to make it work, I mean, they're escorted by a clubhouse staff.
Yes.
They stay on the path where the golfers are on the fairways.
Mm-hmm.
The staff that take them around, normally do a bit of a talk, and they're very conscious and aware of the golfers, and it's done tactfully and respectfully to the golfers. So they get around. We've never had any issues, and once again, our golfers are on holidays. They're in that holiday frame of mind. They're not they're not sort of halfway through a monthly medal and frustrated about certain things, or so it's that holiday spirit and atmosphere, I think, helps us as well.
I love that you mentioned it's advertising as well, just for the golf course, that you get these my wife came, she was like, let's go, we don't have time, you didn't bring your clubs, and she's like, oh, you like to play with your own clubs, and yes I do. I will say that I'm one of those people that I like to play with my own clubs, but she's like, let's just go over and do lunch, and then there's this tour. And she's a non-golfer. Like, she knows golf and has played it, but she's not really a golfer. And so Bree says, let's go and do this. We'll go over there for lunch. So you get the boat, you go over there, they take you up, they look after you inside. You have the most incredible feed, and you got the most amazing views out of the clubhouse. Then you jump in a cart on a beautiful day when it's, beautiful one day, perfect the next. And we go out the back nine. And we went with, I think there was four carts or something at the time. So it wasn't huge. And we get out the back, and I think I was probably the only person I can say was genuinely a golfer that in the group. Right. So I was like beaming wide-eyed to see this golf course, because I wasn't playing at this time, and everyone else were non-golfers, and they were jumping out of their skin to see the views. And to see so they were, this is what got me. We went down to the 14th. I remember we went down to the 14th green with the par 3 over the back with the magnificent views, and we drove down to the green, and we get off our golf buggies, and we, like you said, we're escorted all the way as we drive the loop. And the woman who was looking after us said, come out, get your photos, stand on the green. You got the beautiful, it's almost an infinity green with off the back, it drops away, and you got the views in the water. People were getting down and feeling the grass with their hair, because I've never seen, this is the thing that I love to show people that aren't golfers, right? And I talk about this a lot, because we tried, from your model there, mate, I can tell you we tried to do similar things where I was at Katoomba, because we're at a holiday destination. Oh, fabulous. So we tried to get people to go around the golf course, more about with weddings and stuff, where they can take photos. But everyone that we went with on this tour at Hammo of the back nine were not golfers, probably had never been on a golf course before, were jumping out of their skins with cameras to take photos of them standing next to the flag on this magnificent putting surface with the views, endless views of the Great Barrier Reef and the Whitsundays. And they could not get enough of it.
That's great.
It was mesmerising because I'm loving it and I'm a golfer. Why would non-golfers not love it? And they did.
That's right.
It was incredible.
And hopefully they're going home and telling their golfer friends, showing them the photos and saying you've got to go to Hamilton Island.
I've got absolutely no doubts that's what they were doing. And you look at that, I still look at the photos and I just go, wow. I just want to get back there one day. And I know I will, because you've just got to do it, mate. That's just me talking up Hammo. There you go. I'll do it for nothing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, mate, let's talk about some of the logistical things, and maybe we can tie a couple of things together here. You guys have been through your fair share of cyclones. You're in cyclone territory, and when you get them, my oh my, you get them. Yeah. Debbie was probably the last one, was it, in 2017 that was the most devastating?
Yeah, Debbie was definitely the worst one, and it was our last one, thank goodness.
What happens to a golf course during a cyclone, mate? It might sound like a stupid question, but I mean, we talk about the weather we've had on the East Coast down here in New South Wales and southeastern Queensland, and floods, and we've had fires 3 years earlier and all this sort of stuff. What the hell happens to a golf course in a cyclone?
Look, for us, and as you know, Steve, we don't have many huge trees. The fairways aren't tree lined; it's native grasses. There's brush boxes, and there are windswept sort of low trees and shrubs around. So we don't have massive trees falling over and doing damage. We're picking up sticks, don't get me wrong, and nearly every tree and that's on the island that doesn't have leaves, and the areas where there are, the smaller trees that block the paths and whatnot. But, for the golf course, it's not too bad.
Okay.
And, basically we're picking up sticks. We did with Debbie was a bad one. That cyclone was very slow moving. So it took, I think, 24 hours, maybe longer, to move across. Other cyclones we've had sort of come and go within a few hours and do less damage. Okay. So that was the problem with Debbie. And we got a chipping company down from Townsville pretty quick, and it took about, I think, we've been close to 10 days with the chipper behind the tractor going along the path.
Yeah,
and
right.
The boys just sort of picking up all the fallen trees and branches from around the paths and just chipping them, mulching it back into the native areas, which we can do.
Okay.
Our big problem is infrastructure. The jetty gets damaged.
Things we go back to logistics, things that we don't think about.
Yeah, so the course, we can clean up. When the jetty's damaged, it's sort of the jetty suspended by these sort of bungee cords under the water and sea anchors. Those bungee cords come from Sweden. And have to be ordered. Of
course they come from Sweden. Where else would they come from?
And that's it. So when the jetty gets damaged, we could be a couple of weeks where, OH&S, we can't get golfers or people onto the jetty and back onto the island.
Okay.
So our contingencies there are we use Mini-Me or this other little boat, the Rail, and we go to the barge ramp, and that's how we can get staff back onto the island.
Righto.
So we don't open up as a golf course until that jetty and everything's safe.
Yep.
But I can get staff. I mean, one cyclone a few years ago, we had a week and the boys were getting helicopters from Hamilton Island to Dant Island.
How did you get to work the other day? We caught the chopper.
Yeah, we got the chopper
we caught the company chopper.
Couldn't get the smile off our faces. We wanted scenic tours and laps of the island, but no, they wouldn't do that. It was the straightest line possible between the airport and the helipad. But that's what we had to do to get back onto the course.
First world problems.
Yeah. So the jetty and the infrastructure, the two islands are connected with a series of pipework and fibre optics. And our potable water on the island is made on Hamilton Island and pumped across to Dent.
Okay.
So we've got to make sure, that we can get water, that all our electricity, the power's under the sea to Hamilton Island, and fibre optics for our networks, computers, irrigations, all that kind of stuff. So just making sure all the infrastructure's intact. One year the jetty got damaged, and we've got potable water going down to the jetty. So that drained a half a meg tank
Whoa.
of potable water.
Valuable stuff, right?
Valuable stuff when you're making it.
Yeah.
And that burnt out a pump. So after the first sort of cyclone, we've got plans in place to protect the infrastructure and isolate things and limit damage. And so we've been through a few. We're getting pretty good at them. But the jetty's the weakest link.
And what about I imagine building standards are, everything changed, we know, from Cyclone Tracy all those years ago in Darwin. The clubhouse, your maintenance facility-wise, how did that stand up to a Debbie?
Yeah, pretty good. I lost a little bit of the flashing in the roof above the office, but everything else pretty good. The clubhouse was sound. They're well built. Yeah, so no, we haven't had any big issues like that. Once again, I've got two massive tanks, half a meg each. So the integrity of those is vital to us.
Yep.
And they've both been been good as well. So
okay.
Yeah, look, touch wood, we've been all right.
Very good. So that's the associated winds. Now we know that with cyclones comes a lot of rain. How do your bunkers stand up in that? Because you're built on rock, as we've learnt.
yeah, the bunkers wash out, and they used to wash out in the wet season originally anyway.
Okay.
We did rebuild them a few years ago using custom bind layer in the bunkers.
Okay.
And since then, the wet seasons have been terrific. It's very rare that we get any washouts in them.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's made a huge difference to the wet season, that's for sure.
So so that probably leads me into the next one a little bit, where I said maybe we could tie a couple of things together. You rebuilt your bunkers, which I know I've talked to you about before. Do we go back to logistical challenges? Did you have to replace all the sand? Is that what you did, or did you dig them out, stockpile it, or just start fresh? Is that what you got to do when you're rebuilding bunkers?
Yes, we did. We dug all the old bunkers out, the shells, and which is once again, what do you do with all that material?
Yeah.
So we sort of stashed it on little areas that we can on the island to use as fill and material.
Yep.
So that sort of became a bonus for us, that we've ended up with probably 600 cube of material that we can use.
Wow, that's cool.
So that's good. The downside of that is had to bring in about 1,500 cube of material to rebuild them.
Wow.
So that was 70 to 80 tippers of material.
Wow.
So that took a couple of months just in itself, getting those tippers brought onto the island.
And that's because you got to do one at a time?
No, on the big barge, we could hold 5 to 6 tippers, depending.
Okay.
And 2 prime movers.
Well, okay, so it's a big barge. I didn't realise it was that big, but you've got to get this with the tides that are available, right?
That's right. And the time of year we did it, most of those tides were nighttime. So we had lighting towers on the barge ramp and on the stockpiles. And you imagine it's a narrow sort of long barge with all the tippers lined up and only 2 prime movers. So that the prime movers would take 2 loads up, dump them. They couldn't put the empty trailers back on the barge because they'd block the full trailers.
They're in the way.
So they've got to unhook the empty trailers down at the barge ramp on the island, and then unhook and then hook up the full trailers, do the same thing, then park them and do it again. So they're continually hooking up and unhooking these semi-trailers, which would be a frustrating nightmare.
And you got a little marshalling area to put these things parked off the side of it. You've got to have the space for that. You know, it's at night time, so there's challenges.
Yep.
I mean,
you got an angry barge operator looking at the tide going, come on.
Watching the clock.
Go. Yeah, and that barge ramp was was used during the construction, so the laydown area was there.
Okay.
So it was using infrastructure that was already in place. But once again, the logistic teams that worked out when we could get the barges, the tides, and that sand had to be picked up from north of Proserpine as well, and driven to Chute Harbour and stored. And
wow.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge, but that team did a fabulous job. and they got all the material here for us.
That's incredible.
Sand and gravel.
That's incredible. There's just so many other things to think about to do something. So now that your course is built, it's been matured over, I don't know, how old's the course? 11? How old's the course?
Close to 13 now.
13 years old. So as it's mature, you got to, is part of the maintenance and the planning and everything that goes on with looking after Hammo as a golf course, you try and keep your inputs to a minimum unless you absolutely need to do stuff. Is that part of how it works? Do you have to think sustainably about all these sorts of things as well?
Yeah, we don't want to be wasting barge trips and skippers and time on doing things unnecessarily, that's for sure. If that's what you mean by inputs.
Yeah.
As far as bringing stuff over.
Because time is money as well. So everything costs double for you guys, I'm sure.
Yep. I tell the boys, I buy, for when we're dusting greens, I buy a tipper of sand down in Mackay that, roughly costs, say, $500 for the sand. But it cost me about $2,600 to get the sand here. And that's not including really the barge cost.
So it's five times the cost.
Yeah.
And it doesn't include the barge to get it from Hammo Island to Dent Island.
Yeah.
That's astounding.
It is astounding.
That's staggering. I can't imagine golf. So yeah, this is a very different type of golf course to business to run.
Yeah, very much so.
Throw the book out the window. Most people will have no idea how you guys function. This is
It's all good. There's no negatives. It can be there's frustrations at times, but
sure.
It's a wonderful place to do it.
Unique challenges, and I've said it before, and I'll keep banging on about. You've got to go and see Hammo. It's worth the plane trip in alone just to get there and see it. It's incredible. It really is staggering, mate. One final point, then, knowing that you've got improved bunkers, and that's probably been something that I know I've spoken to with other people is the quality of bunkers. So now that's greatly improved over the last few years since that little project's been completed. We know some of the inherent challenges of a golf course at Hammo and looking after it on such a unique site. What are the next 12 months, what looks ahead for you guys? You come out of COVID, you're pretty popular. It's hard to get a plane to Hammo. I've been looking.
It is.
And it's hard, it's expensive. Not like it used to be. It's very popular again. So what sort of things are you looking for to improve over the next 12 months looking forward, or the next growing season to move through?
It's a tough one because we're so busy at the moment. It's getting hard to do lots of things on the course that we'd like to.
Right. Your aerator's ready to go?
Pretty much, yeah. The aerator's ready to go, and looking forward to getting into the fairways. I would like to take a couple of greens, sort of back out, enlarge them. Getting some encroachment on a couple of greens.
Yep.
So I look forward to doing that. When we can get a little excavator over here, I'd like to do a little bit more drainage in a couple of low areas. And I've had on the radar for a couple of years is upgrading the irrigation system, getting rid of the Dakotas and putting, say, the IC unit in.
Yep.
So there's lots of things we'd like to do. It's just a sort of fitting them in and making them work.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I mean, even buying Tiff Dwarf, that comes from the Sunshine Coast, so that has to be brought up, trucked up, potentially a refrigerated truck, and then I've got 2 barges to get it over to Dent as well before it dies. So
every story you tell me about getting something there, I just laugh. I just can't. I cannot fathom how much effort is involved in getting anything to your golf course. It's staggering.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's staggering. But there's one last thing I thought of. So that's looking forward, which is, they're the points that it's good to see that even as a Hammo, as a very different type of golf course to quite a different type of clientele, you're still looking at the similar things that we all look for in improving: is drainage, is irrigation, is the turf surfaces. You're continuously trying to improve them and better them than what they have been. One question I've got, and I didn't touch on it before, is your water source. You're surrounded by an incredible landscape of salt water. Where do you get water from? And is it that potable water that you talked about being made? And I assume it's desal over on Hamilton.
It's not. We have one lake on the island.
Ah.
and they raised the dam wall on the lake and enlarged it, and that holds 250 meg.
Okay,
and
that's a lot.
It is a lot. And if you're standing up on that fourth tee, you're looking at the sort of the front nine of the golf course. Most of that area all drains down into that lake.
Wow. Okay.
So it doesn't take a crazy amount of rain for that lake to fill up.
And you have a good wet season usually.
We normally have a good wet season. So out of my 13 years, it's filled up or very close to it 10 or 11 times. We've only had 2 sort of scary years. This year we thought was one of them. At the end of sort of February, the end of our wet season, the lake was only about half full. And I was starting to panic, but we had an amazingly wet April, May this year.
Right, okay.
And it filled it up. So we're right to go.
That's awesome. So that's just local runoff on your little island that you're on.
That's it. Yeah. And that's enough, well and truly enough. We have to manage it and watch it, but that's enough water to get us through to the next wet season, to get us through to the end of December.
That's unreal. And when things get scary, what does the heart rate do?
Oh, look, it's
because I take it there's no backup for that.
No, look, there isn't, because if I'm struggling for water, Hamilton Island would be as well, and they wouldn't want to be sending me a meg a day to put on the golf course. But it hasn't sort of come to that. They did supplement some of their irrigation water 1 year to me. But that didn't last very long, and we got the rains that were needed.
Yeah, right. So the rainfall is reasonably consistent enough for an expectation and a management perspective throughout the year that that whilst it's going to go down, you're going to get some form of rain, even if it's across a 2-year period. Eventually, that time you'll get it back up and you'll be okay.
Then we're right again. That's right.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, mate, Brad. I've been on a journey. I've been on a learning journey. That is absolutely incredible information from the inside of Hamilton Island Golf Club, mate. It is an absolutely magnificent part of the country and a magnificent part of the world. And your story of how you got to Hammo, that in itself was great listening, mate. So I thank you for sharing. I really do.
Mate,
I thank you for sharing.
That's my pleasure. It's a wonderful place to. I enjoy talking about it, and you've been here, and
No, mate, and you've been so generous with your time when I have been there, so I appreciate that, and I've seen some of the things. And for I'm going to start posting some Hammo photos. I missed it. It's been a couple COVID years where the wife and I haven't been there, and now we're a child up, and we're soon to have a second child. So it's mate, it's very exciting, but it means that it might be a little bit longer before we get back to Hammo, but we will get back there because we love it so dearly. And mate, thank you for being on the podcast and opening up somewhere that's quite unique, very unique and quite special in Australian golf, and somewhere that we probably don't look at a lot because it's aimed as more of a resort style golf course to a different clientele than traditional golfers. But I think every golfer needs to experience Hammo. It's so spectacular on so many levels. Even if it is a very challenging golf course to get your way around, you don't really care how challenging it is and how many golf balls you lose. You just want to keep hitting and go around again, mate. So, Brad, thank you very much. Thank you for being so open about it and hearing all those stories, and certainly about your career, mate. It's been quite a ride for you, and you sound like you're very much enjoying your time there at Hammo.
Thanks very much, Steve, and enjoyed talking to you immensely. Look forward to catching up next time you're up here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brad.
Cheers, mate.
Bye. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What a conversation that was. How much of a champion guy is Brad? Superintendent Brad Hole at Hamilton Island Golf Club, and what an incredible part of the world Hamilton Island Golf Club is. Tune into my social media because I am going to put on there some of the images from the time that I've been there. Fortunately, able to have been there over the years gone by. And as I mentioned, my wife and I, Bree, we have an absolute love affair with Hamilton Island in general. And the golf course is something spectacular that you really should put on your bucket list. Look, it's as good as going to anything in a different way, in its very own way, but it's absolutely spectacular. A bucket list golf course like going to anywhere of the great courses around Australia in any other parts of the country, and certainly some of the people that I've interviewed that work on them as part of Colin Campbell Chemicals Keeper of the Green. So, look, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. And one of the things I will mention, we did just talk a little bit after we recorded the podcast, and he did say that he forgot to mention how good is it where he lives. He actually lives on a tucked-away hidden house near a lighthouse on Dent Island, just over the side of the golf course, which is you can't see it. So from the golf course, you wouldn't even know it was there. He was telling me, and sensational stuff. So it really is a unique part of the world. Brad has an incredible job. He does an incredible job with his team, as you heard, looking after Hamilton Island Golf Course. It is a spectacular place, and I cannot stress that enough. And if you are thinking about going there for a holiday or somewhere up North Queensland, look, it's something that you really need to make an effort to get to. It is such a spectacular golf course, and I don't know how else to say it other than that. And it's very different. It's very resort style, as you heard Brad and I talk about, but it is something that you need to experience, and it is one of a kind, certainly in Australia, and even still in the world, in my opinion. So, not that I'm a worldly traveller, as you also heard me say. But look, thank you to Brad. I appreciate Brad's insight, and I hope you did too, opening up to all the things in the backgrounds of what makes Hammo tick, Hamilton Island Golf Club tick, and the maintenance that goes on there on the golf course. And also, what a great story. Hasn't Brad been in some wonderful parts of the world in his career? He's been to some places that are no longer with us, like Laguna Keys, but also some wonderful parts in Sanctuary Cove and over in Thailand and Indonesia as well, doing some work over there. Fantastic stuff. These are the things that a career in greenkeeping, these are the places it can take you. It is incredible. I do love it. I've been part of it, and you've heard some wonderful stories from the people on the Keeper of the Green segment. So I hope you enjoyed that one just the same. And please pass it around. Please like, share, subscribe is the thing. Go in there and subscribe. Click the subscribe button to the podcast. And look, there's going to be some new things happening soon with the Golfing Greenkeeper. So stay tuned to my socials. That's the Golfing Greenkeeper on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and also on LinkedIn, because I've got some new things happening very soon. And I hope to have you guys a little bit more engaged and a little bit more part of it along the way. And the podcast is obviously, it's a key part, but there's going to be some more things, and I can get some more info to you. The idea is to keep giving you some more information, more things to keep excited about, show you the insides, behind the scenes, and all those types of things as well. So look, I love that, and we'll be coming to you very, very soon. So stay tuned and hit that subscribe button. Please also give me a review on Apple Podcasts if you're an Apple Podcast listener as well. And don't forget about my wonderful sponsors of the Keeper of the Green segment, Colin Campbell Chemicals, and check out their website at campbellchemicals.com.au to see if they can help you with any of the turf solutions that you require for your golf course to help you out. Wonderful people. Nadeem, as I've mentioned before, as you've heard on the podcast and you've heard with Campbell's Corner, is sure and more than happy to help you out with whatever you need, and I'm sure that they've got products that can help you out no matter what you're looking for. Just go and check them out at campbellchemicals.com.au. Thank you very much, guys. As I always say, you hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you very soon.